What is up, Earth's mightiest subscribers? It's Ernie Blerd without fear. Welcome back to the channel. Before anyone asks, I'm not wearing my glasses, not because I somehow magically went out and got LASIK or anything, or just was magically touched by an angel. Ugh. And then suddenly I can see. No, it's really more a matter that I have a debilitating headache and you still got to put out content, and I have a duty to do. Duty. Anyway, point of the matter is, today we're going to be talking about X-Force number 11 by Benjamin Percy and Basal Dua. And in this video, we're going to learn that Russia has come up with a way to infiltrate Krakoa in a way that is both incredibly ingenious, startlingly terrifying, and ridiculously funny. Not only that, it seems like this is the week that Ernie gets to prove that he pays attention, that he is right, that he seems to have his finger on the pulse of Dawn of X. And there is a character who I said was the mysterious character hiding in the background, the mysterious Russian character hiding in the background who was waiting for the perfect moment to strike, a character that we saw teased a few issues ago in the pages of X-Force, and it just so happens I was right. Anyway, we're gonna talk about all that and more right now. But first, wash your damn hands and let's hit that intro.
Word to wise, grass only greener when it's fertilized. Gave them truth in these songs, they prefer to lies. Destiny beautiful, adrift in her purple lies. You can't see me, you Stevie, wondering how I reach more evolutions than Evie and make it look easy.
Before we get started, if you want to see more awesome comic book videos like this one, it only takes 2 clicks to become one of Earth's mightiest subscribers. Click, click. So basically what this comic is all about in this particular issue is the bodies that they've collected from, recent forays into battling with the Russians and various anti-mutant groups. They now have some of those bodies laid out on the autopsy tables in the healing gardens, and right now Dr. Cecilia Reyes, Beast, and Sage are trying to examine them and figure out what's going on. You see, the last time Krakoa was infiltrated, it was by humans who had been genetically upgraded with parts of Domino, but also with Reaver tech. This time around, it's kind of more of the same thing, but these guys are a bit more uniform, as Dr. Cecilia Reyes points out. Whereas the previous infiltrators, they had no flags, they had no nationalities or ethnicities being promoted on their person. These guys want you to know that they're Russian. What makes matters even more interesting is as Dr. Reyes is, cutting open one of these bodies, we learn that the Russians have figured out a way to kind of do what Krakoa does in terms of resurrecting its people. Yes, we always talk about how, the mutants of Krakoa, they know how to resurrect themselves. They have processes for that. Well, apparently the Russians do too, and theirs are a bit more crude, a bit more gross, but no less effective. Inside the body that Dr. Reyes is cutting, another being is inside of it, albeit a smaller one. It just so happens that it doesn't matter how many of these you kill, inside each of them is another one. This actually leads to Beast referring to them as Russian nesting dolls, which, because that's how that works. A Russian nesting doll is a doll that has a doll inside of it, that has a doll inside of it, that also has a doll inside of it. And one of these, nesting dolls fatally wounds Dr. Cecilia Reyes. We don't really know specifically right off the rip if she is actually dead, but it is made very clear that if she has not gotten, to medical attention soon, she likely will die. But it's one of those things that, the kind of cold calculus of, what is going on now in Krakoa is that, even if people die, they can be resurrected. So it's really no big deal if they die, and that's kind of how, hey, if she dies, she dies, we can bring her back. It's not that big deal. It doesn't mean that it sucks any less, but it's one of those things, if you could die and knowingly be resurrected and be fine, that's kind of how it is. Does it cheapen death? Yes, but death isn't really used as a shock factor here anymore. This isn't like your traditional comics where, oh, hey, we're killing Superman to spruce up the sales. No, they're not killing Dr. Cecilia Reyes to spoof up the sales. It's not what this is about. It's just basically a way of saying that, hey, if we die, we come back. I mean, hell, superheroes do this all the time. But the thing is Beast and Sage go chasing after, this, Russian nesting doll. As they leave the healing gardens, all of a sudden, more of them start emerging from the bodies they hadn't even cut open yet. Now, this is kind of a grave oversight because, at least on Beast's part, because you would imagine that if you knew that there was these extra, people inside of these people, you would be like, whoa, wait a minute, let's check these other ones. Let's make sure we lock this down. But they are so caught up in trying to make sure that this nesting doll doesn't find a hidey hole to hide on Krakoa where they can do more damage. Well, I kind of get why they do it, but at the same time, it's like, man, maybe one of y'all should have stayed. But it wouldn't have mattered because several of them emerge from the corpses laying on these autopsy tables. And being the fact that it was both Beast and Sage, there really was no good answer for whether or not which one could do what, because ultimately, when all these guys get free, they kill Sage anyway. Not only have they killed Sage, they have also gotten into Krakoa's network. They've hacked the network, they have found the location of Charles Xavier, and they're making their way to him as we speak to try to kill him. And they're creating this huge diversion, a terribly huge diversion, like this big to do. And Beast does figure it out. He does realize that, yeah, something's not right. This is all too chaotic. There's no plan here. Clearly, this is to keep our eyes off what the real prize truly is. Now, how do you kill such a thing? How do you kill a creature that basically can come back time and time and time and time again after you kill it, because it keeps getting smaller? Clearly, Domino even points out it's going to get to the point where they become microscopic. So what you have to do is, as she says, divide by 0 and just blow them up, because if you destroy everything, there's nothing left to come back. And this proves to be true. Now, one of the things I find very interesting in all this is that Colossus, who has not really gotten a ton of business in X-Force, even though he is technically a part of X-Force as per not so much the official roster, but just in terms of the fact that it is the book he seems to show up the most in, if at all. He does not want to be a part of this team. He doesn't want to be in the field. Domino actually tries to get him to join her on a mission, and he doesn't want to. He wants to maintain his farmer's lifestyle. He says, I started out as a farmer. That's how I'm going to end it. I can't be caught up in these fights. But it is actually, oddly enough, these Russian nesting dolls drag him back into the fray. He does get back into the fight, but at the end of it all, he still doesn't want to be a fighter. He doesn't want to be a warrior anymore. He just wants a simple life. I'm not familiar with this character. Domino didn't seem to be either, but there's a character who is working in the medicine field where the Krakoan flowers are grown, named Kayla, and she seems to have her hooks in Colossus somehow. I don't know what's going on there. I'm not sure if it's something romantic or just something more familial. I don't know. That's probably a story for another day. That's, once again, seeds getting planted. But whatever's going on, she seems to not be the least bit interested in Colossus being engaged in battle for the X-Men, X-Force, Marauders, or anyone else for that matter. And even though he does engage in combat, he immediately leaves once he realizes everything is handled. Fortunately for Charles Xavier, he has backup. He has Black Tom Cassidy to come along and kind of put him inside of a little vegetation-like panic room. And this actually protects him, because regardless of whether Charles or Black Tom knew it or not, one of those nesting dolls was actually sitting right outside of Xavier's home. It was lying in wait to attack, and Black Tom Cassidy actually achieved what he set out to do. He protected Charles Xavier. See, now that they're out of the picture, they're in that panic room, the creature, the nesting doll that was, lurking outside of Xavier's home, that was looking for him, it just so happens he had an alternative objective. And now that Xavier isn't present right now, it just so happens that the Cerebro sword, the sword that was made up of the original Cerebro that Xavier was wearing when he was originally assassinated into X-Force #1, that Magneto forged into a weapon. Well, it just so happens that that sword is now in the possession of a nesting doll. And I would even posit that that sword was actually the original objective. Maybe killing Charles may have been a part of it. The sword actually was probably more important than killing Xavier himself. Xavier probably just would have been a bonus. I say that because it just so happens that my favorite character, Quotey Finger's favorite character, Kid Omega, who we just realized had just got done clapping cheeks on one of the Stepford Cuckoos, Phoebe specifically, which I want to point out something real quick. I love the fact that apparently Kid Cable is clapping the Stepford Cuckoos, and he may be clapping, all of them, multiple versions of them. So I feel like this makes Kid Omega and Cable Eskimo bros, which is just crazy to me. But anyway, point of the matter is, Quinn Quire has barely gotten his pants buckled back up and said goodbye to Phoebe before he is backstabbed by the Cerebro sword for roughly 800 D6 damage. And I love this because, like I said, I hate this character. So the more he dies in this book, I don't know if Benjamin Percy keeps up with this channel or not. I don't know if he knows how I feel about Kid Omega, but man, you are doing the Lord's work. But yes, Quinn Quire is stabbed through the back with a Cerebro sword and then shoved through one of the Krakoan portals. And guess where he winds up? He happens to land on the other side of the gate with Cerebro sword still hanging out of his back, and none other than Colossus's own brother, Rasputin, waiting on the other side to collect the Cerebro sword. This is what he wanted, and apparently this was a part of his plan, sending those nesting dolls after the X-Men and then having them wind up in Krakoa and then ultimately causing enough chaos to distract them from what he was actually after, which was the Cerebro sword. And we all know the Cerebro sword is supposed to play a part in Ten of Swords that is upcoming, so we know that that's a thing. I also really appreciate the fact that they actually teased that Colossus and Omega Red were going to be somehow involved in some kind of tuss on the cover, but once again, comic book covers lie, which something I tell people all the time. So by the time we got to the end of this, I was actually half expecting Omega Red to be the one on the other side of that portal, not Rasputin. But I did say several issues back that Rasputin is likely the one who is working with Zeno. It was X-Force number 8. If you go back and watch my X-Force number 8 video, I bring this up. That yes, this is Rasputin. I, oddly enough, was correct on that one. I feel like so far for this week, I'm 2 for 2. I'm 2 for 2 on proven theories. I'm feeling good about myself. Don't be surprised if Omega Red is involved in this somehow, because we do know, if you go back to Wolverine number 1, we know that he is actually secretly working for Dracula. And that is why he is on the island. Dracula has convinced Omega Red to go to Krakoa and just hang out until Dracula is ready for him to do what he wants him to do. So don't be surprised. And because of all this stuff is leading back to Russia. We know that Dracula is also hanging out in Chernobyl. So it ain't that far out of the spectrum of reality that Rasputin and Omega Red are potentially working together. And it's also not that far out of the spectrum of reality that either one of them is working for Dracula. We know that Omega Red is. It wouldn't be that far-fetched for Rasputin to be as well. Dracula is finding mutants oddly useful right now, so I'm here for it. And once again, this kind of goes back to the whole thing where a lot of people were upset that, oh, these certain villains, why are these villains? All these villains are on the X-Men's team now. Why are they being allowed on Krakoa? And I've explained this so many different times, and I'm tired of it. A lot of the X-Men's original villains were other mutants, not just anti-mutant groups. And I even said a ways back that, hey, you do still have to have maybe occasionally some mutant villains, and apparently we still have some. We know about Madeline Pryor, which I don't even really count Madeline Pryor because she's more of a clone than anything else. But we also know that Rasputin apparently has beef with the X-Men as well. So yeah, there you go. You wanted your mutant bad guys. Well, guess what? Now you got one. Anyways, I'm curious to see where this goes, and I'm curious what Rasputin plans to do with the Cerebro sword, because we don't really know what it can do other than just being formerly pieces of Cerebro that Magneto forged together. So anyways, let me know what you think about X-Force number 11 by Benjamin Percy and Baz Al-Dua. Wash your damn hands and sound off in the comments. So hey, you made it to the end of the video. Awesome for you. If you enjoyed this video, and if you made it this far, I don't see how you didn't, do me a favor. Hulk smash that like button. And if you want to see more awesome videos like this one, make sure you click subscribe so you can become one of Earth's mightiest subscribers. And tap that bell so you know when I post up. Also, feel free to go check out my Patreon, where if you chuck in a buck, you can get early access to most of my videos up to a week early. And if you have time, make sure you swing by nerd901.com, where you can find more of my content as well as other amazing stuff. Anyways, until next time, I love you 3000 plus ultra!